1973, August 23rd. Jan Erik Olsen, an escaped convict, carries out the beginnings of his planned armed robbery. This robbery would eventually lead to the discovery of a new phenomenon called Stockholm Syndrome. I'm sure you've seen Stockholm Syndrome romanticized on screen before. Television shows like 365, Money Heist, and even fairy tales like Beauty and the Beast all portray Stockholm Syndrome as something intimate, or an example of true love. The real story behind it is much more disturbing. Stockholm Syndrome is a potential psychological response to being kidnapped, where the victim develops positive feelings for their captor, even believing themselves to be in love. In the case of Jan Erik Olsen in his 1973 heist, the victim, Kristen Enmark, pleaded with the police to let her captors go and insisted on following them in the escape car. She said, "I fully trust Clark and the robber. What I am scared of is that the police will attack and cause us to die." But what causes the victims to develop such striking, caring feelings for their abductors? Later, Kristen Enmark had described Olsen, her abductor, as kind and gentle, and had become endeared by his sympathetic actions. When she was cold, he'd offered her a wool jacket, and when she had nightmares, he had reassured her. Toward the end of the heist, he gave her a bullet as a memento of her time as a hostage. When another hostage, Brigitta Lundblad, could not get her messages delivered, Olsen patiently encouraged her to keep trying. In fact, the abductors hadn't even restricted them from asking for help. They were understanding of their hostages' fear and anxiety. This led to Enmark's growing infatuation with her captor. When Olsen planned to shoot Enmark in the leg for the police's attention, Enmark persuaded the other hostages to join her, as she was thankful that the captors did not kill her. On a side note, Enmark and Olsen became engaged after the heist. Psychiatrist Dr. Frank Ochberg discovered that such positive feelings towards the abductors were due to the small acts of kindness offered to the victims when they were in a hopeless, helpless physical and mental state. They see their captors as their only source of help. Even when most of their captors' actions were basic human decency, due to the dire situations, their victims deemed them to be extreme acts of kindness. Moreover, most do not expect their kidnappers to be kind or forgiving. This adds to the so-called kind actions of the captors and furthers their victims' admiration for them. Stockholm Syndrome does not only arise in kidnapping situations, but also abusive relationships, child abuse, and even sports coaching. It has been proven that the victims will develop emotional and physical attachments to the abusers and may even feel sympathetic towards them. While small acts of kindness for children at times will confuse and mislead them, many psychologists and doctors think that Stockholm Syndrome is not a mental disorder. It is just a way for the victims to cope with the trauma.